This is an assessment of a Richard Lipp upright piano made in 1909, 130 centimetres tall, and Lipp are regarded as one of the top piano makers alongside Steinway, Bechstein and others. If you're a technician and like to verify that, that would be wonderful, because they really are, and they restore extremely well. Just looking at the piano to see what kind of work needs doing. Interestingly, it's got some screws placed in the side of it here, so maybe there was a problem at some stage, and the casework needed strengthening, so that's very unusual. Both sides have got those screws. Or maybe it was tropicalised. I don't think so, because if it's tropicalised, they probably wouldn't have ivory keys. So often tropicalised pianos are sent to the tropics and have lots of screws in, but I don't think that's the case. Good pedals, just sloping downwards. The legroom is about 62, I think. We'll see on the sheet, I can't quite remember. The pedal's 7.5, so reasonable amount of legroom if you're a tall person. And the key tops, you can see, are ivory. There's a few chips in them, which we can disguise well, not perfectly, but our team is pretty experienced at disguising chips like that, so that can be done. And there don't seem to be any that have really come off and stuck back on, so that's encouraging. We'll check them all, so if there's any loose ones, obviously that's something we always do. There's a bit of veneer here that's come from somewhere, but generally the outside of the piano doesn't seem to have too much fading. Let's just solder the music stand inside, and I can see the fall. That folds in. Sometimes we've delivered a piano, people say, where's the music stand? It's inside the piano. So yeah, not too much fading, bit of scratching here, so it can make good the case. I don't think it needs fully restoring, in other words, French polishing. That would French polish well, that's a possibility, but really is original. It's quite pleasant generally. And the veneer had come off one of the toes here. It's quite common. Often there are really lots of veneer missing here. Sometimes we, to make good, if we're not going to fully repolish, we take the veneer off and just stain it in. That's not something we would like doing. There's another screw down here, so I'm not sure why that needed to be done. Perhaps it was an idea that Lipp had, because it looked quite authentic the way it's been done, but not something that you normally want to see screws in the piano like that. The felts and the keys are good, and there's regulation to do. If you look, there's some lost motion here, so the capstans need turning here, take up the lost motion. That's one of the most important regulation jobs to do on a piano, and really makes a huge difference to the touch if you do that. So it's just turning this capstan. You have to be careful not to break them. Sometimes the wooden ones can break, so you have to take them off and turn them manually rather than push something through there if you think they're a bit tight. So looking at the rest of the piano inside, the hammers are not incredibly worn actually, but they're a bit soft sounding, so not really bringing out the tone I'd like it to bring out. Perhaps I'm exaggerating on that. I think once you start working on the hammers, we'll be able to make a decision, but certainly they're not that worn. The piano's got a buzz on it. I don't know if you can pick that up on the video. I haven't investigated enough to see what that is, but we will have a look. I'm sure it's easy. It shouldn't be too hard to get rid of that. Lipp's serial numbers are on here, and they're also very often here as well, so if you don't find them here, they'll often be on the top of the action there. So I'm going quite fast, so I don't make the video too long. Interesting enough, the octaves down here are well out, but the tuning pins aren't too loose, though you can see that some have been knocked in here. They are a bit on the loose side really. It's a candidate for restringing and repinning, because the original, these are very small when you put the tuning lever on, so the original strings and pins. So it would be quite a good idea to restring. You could probably just set the pins a little bit more, though these ones are right in already, so that one there, I'll just check that one and see how loose it is. So that one has been not right in. You have to change the pin if you want to get it any tighter, so just checked it, and it's got the octave in tune, and it did stay in tune, so they are a little bit on the loose side. Ideally we would restring the piano, put larger tuning pins in, and then they'd be tight. Don't need to change the rest plank because they're small pins. You can get bigger pins in, and it's a good rest plank on a Richard Lipp. So that's more or less everything, I think. Oh, the dampers are really early, some of them extremely early. If you look at that damper's coming off almost straight away. Affects the touch. You can feel it pulling off. They're quite strong springs. They're good springs, but if you press it, you can see that. So it needs to come off much later. Adjustments on dampers on Lipps and Schiedmeyers are made in the same place, Stuttgart, so they have a similar action where you don't have a wire to adjust, which is a little bit more difficult. You have two screws at the bottom. I don't know if you can see those, and you move them. Sorry, I can't focus properly on that, but you move this. You can regulate it using those two screws. Interesting, different from what most manufacturers do. The tapes are in good condition. I'd imagine they've been replaced, and maybe not, but maybe not. If you take these off and put them back on, if you want to get in to lubricate here, then you probably find you're going to break some, so probably have to replace them all. So on the assessment sheet, the main work that needs to be done is regulating the dampers and general regulation. That was the capstans and other items of regulation too. That's written more specifically on there. And if we look here, rectifying the buzz, I don't think that's going to be too difficult, hopefully, and make good the case. We can repolish, but I think it looks very authentic at the moment, and just as it was. Screws in the sides of the piano, really no idea why that is. Something which, if you're in the trade, you might like to comment on. Very unusual to find that. As I say, tropicalised pianos often have screws all over the place. I'm not sure if it would be that. So I think that's everything really. I'm just going to play the piano to give some idea of the tone of it at the moment. So I should have mentioned the touch weight. If we lubricate the balance rail, that'll even it out a bit. In the centre, it's fine. It's a little bit heavy in the bass, but not. And the top treble is reasonable as well. So generally acceptable, except perhaps a bit heavy in the bass there. So that's a Richard Lipp upright piano, 130 centimetres tall, and one of the best uprights ever made. Octaves are well out of tune. Don't know why. We did try that tuning pin and found that it was reasonably tight, though restringing the piano, putting new tuning pins would certainly be worth considering. The hammers themselves, I think we could possibly put better hammers on. That might be something we would like to do as well, but it's really wouldn't make a massive difference to the tone. The screws here I noticed too, so maybe it was tropicalised, but if that was the case, then the keys, it was unusual to have ivory keys here. Tropicalised pianos often have pins in the front and the back, so it goes into a very humid environment. The keys don't pull off. These are really in great danger of doing that in a humid environment, so I don't think that would it'd be the answer as to why it has these screws in it, but I don't know really. The damping's bad. Not only is it coming off too early, but it's inconsistent. So that can certainly be improved. Beautiful tone in the bass. Wonderful bass strings. So the strings don't need changing. It's just that if you change the tuning pins, it's automatic to change the strings as well. It's possible to change the pins without the strings, but I think it would be sensible to do both. So a very high quality piano. At the moment it's slightly buzzy and doesn't have the kind of tone you'd want it to for a Lipp. They tend to be a bit echoey in the bass very often, Lipps. This one doesn't suffer from that too much, so I think it's going to turn out beautiful if it's fully restored. Thank you very much for listening. If you have a Lipp upright or other high quality upright piano and you'd like us to restore it, we'd be very pleased to do so. Please write to us, info@robertspianos.com. Doesn't really sing incredibly well at the moment, so I can't play sort of what I'd like to play is bring out the melodic area here. It's also out of tune a lot, very below pitch.